Good evening, everybody. I call this regular meeting of the North Adams City Council to order for March 26, 2024. This meeting can be viewed live on the Northern Berkshire Community Television Channel 1303 and will be posted to their website as soon as possible. We will also be live streaming on YouTube at www.youtube.com/@NorthAdams. Just click on the live, then on the 2024-03-26 council meeting. This meeting is being recorded. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Blackmere,
Here.
Bona,
Here.
Green,
Here.
Fitch,
Here.
Morrow,
Here.
Alaskowitz.
Here.
Sepp Jansen,
Here.
Shea,
Here.
Wilkinson.
Here. Okay, all present, we have a quorum. Would you all stand for a moment of silent remembrance? Tonight, we want to remember Jim Bona, father of our own Councilor Bona. He also served on the board and as president of the Northern Berkshire Industrial Management Club. And the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You all may be seated. Okay, can I get a motion to approve the March 12th, 2024 City Council meeting minutes?
Move to approve.
Second.
Councilor Leskowitz,
Nope.
Councilor Blackmer, or Councilor
Councilor Wilkinson, not me.
Councilor Wilkinson, thank you.
Black.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Okay, hearing of visitors on the agenda, this is an opportunity for the public to speak to the council for 2 minutes regarding items listed on the agenda. As a reminder, I will tap the gavel when you reach the 2-minute limit to signal that your time has ended. And as a courtesy, I also ask that all parties please refrain from any personal attacks. Does anybody wish to speak on the agenda tonight? Yes, sir. State your name and address for the record, please.
Douglas Joseph LaBarbera, 485 Walnut Street. And I'm here to speak on item 16277, or the Walnut Street landslide. We've met with the mayor a few times, so I'm pretty up to snuff on what's going on. I am just concerned, and I want to go on record of concern that the landslide does not turn into to a sinkhole, because it would obviously be very dangerous and people could be seriously hurt. So if you go up there, you'll see that there is a stream running under the road. I know it's being checked by the assessor or office, but I just want to go on record as saying it is a concern for everybody that drives over that road, as the safety, the sanctity of the road is still there. My brother lived in Florida. I've seen the Bradenton sinkholes that were happening. They're bad. That's all I want to say. I just hope that people are aware of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for open forum? Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, Deborah Pedersini, 100 Dean Street. I'm going to try and be brief. Council paper 12,377, the Walnut Street landslide as well. First, I just want to begin by saying I'm not here to find fault with the city or its administration in any way. I'm here to voice my concerns and to work with the city to find a solution to this very hazardous condition. For as long as I can remember, this area of Walnut Street's been a concern of many neighbors. When the landslide occurred nearly 2 years ago in April of '22, the concerns turned into reality. At that time, I had faith that our city's DPW and administration would do everything in their power to make sure the road was safe to travel on until a remedy could be found. Engineers would be needed, plans would be made, and this issue would be addressed and remedied. I completely understand how projects such as this could move slowly. However, at that point, I was still pretty confident that the proper repairs would be made within a reasonable time due to the extreme hazard that this situation created. Several months later, in July of 23, there was the collapse on State Street, which I'm sure you're all aware of. After this catastrophic event on State Street, I was then sure that our street's condition would also be addressed immediately. However, that was not the case. Mr. Desadi in July addressed the Public Safety Commission requesting that along with the Jersey barriers, that signage would be installed showing the narrow roadway and general safety issues. These signs were just recently installed, just a few weeks ago, from the request of July. I understand the complexity of engineering, construction, financial restraints. However, 8 months is far too long to wait for 2 signs to be erected. We are told that the estimated cost of repair is approximately $2 million, of which $1.5 million would be covered by a grant through the Mass Emergency Management Agency. In January of 24, mind you, this past January, the city applied for funding through the federal government's BRIC and Flood Mitigation Assistance Program for the remaining $5 million. Although we are sincerely appreciative of these efforts, I question the pause in applying for, in applying for these funds so late. As these grant awards are not expected to be made until later this year, which means another year of continued hazardous conditions. I just want to know why funding sources, they should have been addressed immediately in 22. Thank you,
Okay.
that's all.
Thank you. Okay, we have no old business tonight, so we're going to move on to new business. And without objection, I am going to move council paper number 12,375 up to the front. And that is communication number 31 from Mayor Maxey requesting time to publicly swear in police officers Nicholas Lilly, Stephen Wandry, and Nanette Reed, and Elizabeth Zip into service with the North Adams Police Department. And Mayor, would you like to speak for us, please?
Sure, thank you, Councilman Sapienza, President Sapienza. I would ask that Chief Valley, Lieutenant Beverly, Officers Zip, Reed, Lilly, and Wandry please take the council floor. Be careful on the wires. It hits. So before we start tonight with the formal program, I just want to especially thank the family, friends, and everyone who's here tonight to support our officers, and especially all of those who supported them along the 23-week journey. It's not easy, not only for the officers, but it's a big commitment for the families. And we appreciate your commitment to the city of Lone Adams. So thank you. Tonight, it is my honor to present 4 individuals to take their oath as full-time police officers with the North Adams Police Department. Officers Reed, Lilly, and Wandry just graduated from the Police Academy last Friday. And Officer Zip comes to us on a transfer from the Hinsdale Police Department.
Sorry, Mayor.
Hi.
I know you hate the mic, but
Okay. You want me to hold it?
no.
It's not often they can't hear me.
Well, the mic is still headed.
Good? Okay. I think that's the sign I shouldn't talk much tonight. Okay. So, Officer Zip, welcome. Officer Elizabeth Zip grew up in Hinsdale, Massachusetts, and attended high school at Wacona. She obtained a bachelor's degree in criminal justice in 2021 and a master's degree in justice administration in 2022, both from Faulkner University. Officer Zip was formerly employed as a full-time police officer in the town of Hinsdale, where she worked for 5 years after paying her own way through the full-time police academy. Officer Zip is a forensic interviewer for the Kids Place in Pittsfield and is also a member of the Domestic Violence Task Force, which is housed in our DA's office. Officer Zip is an EMT and a task force officer from the Homeland Security Office. Our next officer is Officer Nanette Reed, who grew up in North Adams and Clarksburg, where she graduated from Clarksburg Elementary School and Drury High School. Officer Reed studied criminal justice at Bay Path College and took multiple jobs in customer service and finance. Officer Reed moved to Adams, where she ran a family daycare for 11 years. Officer Reed has 3 children and always has aspired to being a police officer. She tells the story of listening to the radio with her father, who was Ricky Boucher, our former head of our water department, and remembers listening to the police calls and said, "One day I want to be a police officer." Well, Officer Reed, today's your day. Officer Nicholas Lilly grew up in Hancock, Massachusetts, and graduated from McCann through the machine tech trade. In 2018, Officer Lilly joined the Army National Guard, where he still currently serves, holding the rank of E4 Specialist. Officer Lilly lives in Hancock with his wife and 2 sons. He looks forward to being a police officer and interested in becoming a drug recognition expert. It should also be noted, which I'm very proud of, that Officer Lilly brought home an award to the city of North Adams for being the most proficient member of the class for both the handgun and rifle during the firearms training. Steve Wandry. Officer Wandry grew up in Adams and graduated from McCann Tech through the automotive trade. Officer Wandry worked 5 years for Pete's Automotive and then moved on to Bedard Brothers, where he's worked since 2008 as a master mechanic. Officer Wandry lives in Adams with his son and is interested in working with domestic violence survivors as a police officer. Officer Zip, Reed, Lilly, and Wandry, I ask you as you take your oath tonight before us that you are willing to do the following. Be certain to never betray your integrity, your character, and the public trust. I ask that you always have the courage to hold yourselves and others accountable for their actions. I insist that you always maintain the highest ethical standards and uphold the values of this administration and the great community you serve. As mayor of the city of North Adams, I'm very proud of all of you, and I welcome you to the North Adams family. Clerk Leonasia, would you come? Oh,
We're gonna
Melissa,
have,
the assistant clerk will swear us
clerk will
in.
be administering the oath
Thank
tonight.
you.
Thank you.
Would you please administer the oath?
I state your name. You have to repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear. I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and I will support the Constitution thereof and the Constitution of the United States, that I will obey the lawful orders of all my superior officers, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties incumbent on me as a police officer for the city of North Adams, according to the best of my ability and understanding, agreeably to the rules and regulations of the Constitution and the laws of the Commonwealth and to the United States of America. So help me God. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I want to congratulate you all on your career with the North Adams Police Department. Thank you. At this time, I'm going to call a short recess. Those families of the officers, if you would like to leave, you may do so. If you would like to stay and watch the rest of the meeting, you may do so as well. So we'll take.
All set.
At this time, I'm going to reconvene the city council meeting. And we're going to start with council paper number 12,371, communication number 27 from Mayor Maxey requesting time to present a proclamation in support of Transgender Visibility Day. And I'm going to file the communication without objection. Mayor, would you like to speak to us about it?
Sure. On March 31st, 2024, we'd like to proclaim and acknowledge Transgender Day of Visibility. Whereas Transgender Day of Visibility is held every year on March 31st to recognize the journey towards equality and acceptance for all individuals, regardless of their gender, identity, is an ongoing pursuit of justice and dignity. Whereas transgender and gender nonconforming individuals have faced discrimination, marginalization, and violence throughout history, yet persistence with resilience and courage to live authentically. Whereas Transgender Visibility Day serves as a moment to honor and celebrate the diverse experiences, identities, and contributions of transgender and gender nonconforming people worldwide. Whereas we recognize the importance of affirming and protecting the rights of transgender and gender nonconforming individuals to live free from discrimination, violence, and prejudice. Now, therefore, I, Jennifer A. Maxey, Mayor of the City of North Adams, do hereby proclaim May 31st, 2024 as Transgender Visibility Day. So please let us stand together in solidarity, uplift transgender voices, and work towards a future of equality, acceptance, and love for all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Shea?
Thank you.
Any discussion? Okay. Council paper number 12,372, communication number 28 from Mayor Maxey recommending the appointment of John Tresky to serve as a member of the Commission on Disabilities, filling the unexpired term of Carrie Cruz for a term to expire on December 1st, 2025.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion to approve and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Communication number 29 from Mayor Maxey recommending the reappointment of Annette M. Guarino to serve as a member of the Windsor Lake Recreation Commission for a term to expire April 1st, 2027.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Let's see, any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Council paper number 12,374, communication number 30 from Mayor Maxey recommending the appointment of Michael Meany to serve as a member of the Parks and Recreation Commission for a term to expire April 1st, 2029.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Have done that. Council paper number 12,376, a communication from Council President Sapienza requesting time to present and vote to accept a resolution in support of the paint stewardship legislation. I will file the communication at this time. Council paper number 12,376, a resolution in support of the paint stewardship legislation. I am going to file this communication, and I will read the resolution. Resolution in support of paint stewardship legislation, whereas landfill capacity in Massachusetts has rapidly declined and no new capacity is expected, and whereas the cost of hauling and disposal of waste materials have increased by over 30% in the last 5 years and are expected to continue increasing at similar rates. And whereas a paint stewardship law would create a convenient collection network to properly manage all architectural paint from business and residential sectors and substantially decrease inappropriate discarding of paint, which is a toxic substance that can cause harmful environmental pollution. And whereas a paint stewardship law will divert paint from waste disposal to its best and highest use, whereby there will be a small but real decrease in the total waste going to landfills. And whereas paint stewardship laws have been demonstrated as an effective means of diverting paint from landfills in our neighboring states of Connecticut, Rhode Island, Maine, Vermont, New York. And whereas a law supporting discarding of latex and oil-based paints at participating retail stores and transfer stations have strong support from constituents, and whereas municipal waste management systems were established a century ago to manage wastes like ashes, food scraps, and horse manure, rather than the wide array of manufactured goods, including paint, which dominate today's municipal waste. And whereas the Massachusetts Municipal Association passed a resolution which supports statewide producer responsibility legislation in January of 2019. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the City Council of North Adams urges the Massachusetts General Court and the leadership of both chambers to view the pending paint stewardship legislation favorably and take whatever actions are necessary to pass the paint stewardship bills into law, including voting favorably out of any and all committees. A paint stewardship law will begin relieving municipalities and consumers of ever-rising solid waste management costs, significantly reduce a toxic waste going to landfills, and decrease greenhouse gases generated by the paint industry by 4%. The pending paint stewardship legislation in the 23-24 legislative session includes bills H.823, an act relative to paint recycling, 3.542, an act to establish safe paint stewardship, 3.551, an act relative to paint recycling. And it be ordered that the city clerk of North Adams shall cause a true attest copy of this resolution to be sent to Thomas B. Irwin, who will, with other resolutions from across the state of Massachusetts, present to the House Ways and Means Committee to encourage the committee chairs to view the paint stewardship legislation favorably and to send it to the legislative for a vote.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to adopt and second. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Okay. Motion to approve, or
We already did that.
motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And from what I understand, we are the 40th community to accept this and to, now this can move forward to the state. We have the 40 communities or the 40 organizations. This can move forward. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Irwin, for your time and effort in this endeavor. Thank you. Okay. Moving on, Council Paper Number 12,377, a communication from Council Vice President Shade requesting time for Mr. Richard Asadi to address the council regarding Walnut Street landslide of 2022 with specific topics in which he is requesting information on. I will file the communication without objection. Councilor Shade?
Yes, so Mr. Desati approached me in regards to wanting to address the council into what's going on with the Walnut Street landslide. So Mr. Desati, if you would, please come on up and...
Yes, and please state your name and address for the record, please.
Richard Desati, 472 Walnut Street. Thank you for letting me get up here at the microphone. I think it's important that the city council and the city of North Adams address this issue at a formal meeting. There's been dozens of phone calls. We had a couple informal gatherings, as the mayor describes them, about how the city is going to move forward on this. But I don't know if everyone understands the safety issue here. What we have is normally the road is 18 feet wide, and right now with the landslide, there's no sidewalk and there's Jersey barriers, so it's reduced to 12 feet, a space of 12 feet, and cars are coming in both directions in that 12 feet, and also pedestrians are walking there too, so it's like three modes of transportation all using one lane. And we've been pretty fortunate because it's coming on 2 years and we haven't had an accident. So I'm very grateful to that and I hope we can continue that way. But I'd like the city to look at what is their liability and responsibility in this issue. Say I'm a pedestrian, I do it a lot. I'm walking down the street and I get hit by a car. I'm in the road, there's no other way for where a pedestrian can walk. The insurance company for the driver of the car is going to say, well, the guy was in the middle of the road, There's no traffic signs that say speed limit. There's no signs that say yield or stop. There's no signs that say one lane traffic ahead. When you run into this on the highway where it's heavily traveled, there's always like a police officer or traffic lights to make sure that everything goes well. But the point is, it's a route that's used especially in the wintertime, because it's the safest route. The alternatives are to go down Dean Street, which is a very steep street which has issues with the shoulder deteriorating. There are no sidewalks on that road. Then there's Oak Avenue, and we thank the mayor for getting the crew up there to clean it up a little bit. But there's no sidewalks on Oak Avenue, and it's really steep. But where you come down to the landslide, especially in the winter and icy conditions, I told my wife not to go on the road Sunday because it was all ice, but you're coming downhill to the one lane. And when you're in a snowstorm, if you're going up a hill and it's snowy, you're going to try to step on the gas because you want to keep the momentum to get up the hill. And, you know, so thank God we haven't had that accident yet. And besides that, 35, I'd say maybe 35 yards away from that landslide, Lyman Street comes down, and people take a left to go on to Walnut Street. And 20 yards from that landslide, Oak Avenue comes up, and people take a right.
Close the
You
road.
know, there's been issues with, you know, there's, say, trucks making deliveries that are using their GPS or whatever, and they say to go up Oak Avenue, but then it's impossible then to take a right with the size truck that they have, and they have to back down Oak Avenue. There's no signs that say weight limit, like you had an engineering study done, but we don't know what the results were. They did test borings, but we would like to know, you know, what is the weight limit? What size trucks can go through there? And you should then mark out, you know, easily seen signs approaching that so trucks won't go up here that are over the weight limit. But it's, you know, it's just an issue of safety, and I really think that you should go up there and take a look at it, and let's just hope that, you know, we can get through this until some remedy can be made. Right now, what we've heard from the mayor's office is they're going to apply for a grant, and we'll find out in November. Work, if possible, might start the following spring, so we're looking at another winter at the least. And there might, you know, it might be a good idea to talk to the engineers. I know when you go for surgery or something, you talk to a doctor, you always say, well, if you don't do this procedure, what procedure would you do? You know, what would be the, you know, we should look and see if there are alternatives that can repair the road a little bit right now to make it safer. And then the big fix that needs, you know, to take care of all the runoff and the water that's coming down from Reservoir Road underneath the road, and address that too. But I just thank you for the time, and I don't mean to belabor. I know you guys have a lot of other important issues that you have to deal with. We appreciate it, but I really think it's important to have it on the part of the city official acts, and that, you know, if something happens, at least you made an informed decision on how you proceed from here. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor Shade.
Yes, through the chair to the mayor, can you provide a little more of an update on some of the issues that were brought up?
I mean, I don't disagree with anything that Ms. Pedersini or Mr. Desati said. Like, it is of a concern, and it's been a concern in my mind, and I think we spoke about this at the neighborhood meeting that we had on March 11th, that it's been an issue for 30 years. I understand the frustration because they see it every day. They have to travel it, walk it. So just a couple of things. So we knew the road was failing. We've known that since I think I began working with the city in 1992. It finally really failed and caved in. And at that point, we engaged with Ty and Bond to do a study. But it's not just about the wall. It's also about the storm remediation and capturing the water that's coming off the mountain, deteriorating not only that wall, but other parts of the street. You know, Debbie talked about Dean Street in that area. So, yes, the study took a long time. Was it frustrating? Absolutely. But after the July 10th storm, when we had MEMA's attention, we said, look, we've got this issue that was pre-existing to the July 10th storm. What funding avenues are available? And they had different types of storm remediation that would include the wall. So we filed a notice of interest for 3 projects. 2 moved forward, and 1 they said didn't fit. And one of them was the Walnut Street repair, which includes not only the repair of the retaining wall, but also the storm remediation issues that we have. So from there, once we got the nod that yes, this project is feasible, we went on and filed the formal grant, which unfortunately we're not going to hear about until another winter. So you're absolutely right. We're going to go through another winter. Simultaneously, we are looking for other funding sources that may come in before that. But right now, according to MEMA, this is the best opportunity for this project. Do I agree about the signage took a long time, but we had a supply issue? We don't keep those kinds of signs. Since our last meeting on March 11th, which I thought was a great meeting, I enjoyed the conversation we had. We had about 30 people in the room, 27 in the room and 3 online. Since then, Tim has had to place another order for more signs. And I took down, like, what you said about the trucks and things like that. I don't think I heard you say anything about the trucks before. But the total cost of the project, we're asking the federal government for the 1.5, and then the city share is 500,000. But we're not there yet. By the time we put it out to bid, it could be up to 3.5. But it's not to say that it's fallen on deaf ears. Because I see you all in the supermarket. I've known you for the last 51 years. Most of you, it's not fallen on deaf ears. And unfortunately, as Miss Pedersini said, it's a slow process and it's frustrating and it takes time. But right now, we've been as responsive as we can, and I'm going to brag a little bit. I've been as responsive as any other administration, so I don't know what more you want me to do. As far as the engineering study, you're welcome to go down and talk to Tim, and he'll get the plans out and show them to you. The timetable is what it is. We're at the mercy of the grant process. We are assessing the road. We did order more signage. Right now, I think it says road narrows. We've ordered more signs, and we want to get some of those flashing lights that we can put on top of the fencing. So Tim is working on that. And I know it's frustrating. I get it. I wouldn't want to see it every day myself. But I'm told that the road is safe. I'm not an engineer, nor are you. But that's what we're told by the professionals. But I get your frustration. I totally do. But I don't know what else more I can tell you. I think I've probably told you more than anybody else has. But we're sorry that it's gotten to this point. We're addressing it the best we can. But this isn't a town form of government. The operation part of the city falls in my office and through the Department of Public Services. And the council can support us when it comes to time for funding. But to say that you can tell me to move any faster, I'm moving as fast as I can, and I don't mean to be snarky about that. But, we have a similar situation that's going on in the Brooklyn Street area. We've applied for funding for that. I'm doing the best I can with the infrastructure I inherited. But I totally get your frustration. But you have my word for what that's worth, is that I'm doing as much as I can for you. So if anyone has any questions, that's where we're at.
Councilor Breen.
Through the chair to the mayor, a question. Are fire trucks and ambulances able to go through there?
Yeah, I am told that. I'm going to clarify what exactly. I'm told that that's fine.
Could they run one up there and just try?
Yeah, they know that it's narrow, so the police or the fire department has an alternate route. But you brought up the question about the weight limit. I don't know off the top of my head the weight limit, but that is certainly something that we can get for you.
Okay, great.
Councilor Shade.
Yes, through the chair to the mayor, with the issue with trucks that seems to be potentially danger hazard, especially delivery vans, delivery trucks, do we have signs that we could put on some of those other streets that surround there about directing trucks and which way they should go, so that
I can speak to Tim about that. I didn't realize that delivery trucks were an issue. But we certainly can speak to Tim about that. We are having a parking traffic meeting internally on Friday or Tuesday on another subject, but that is something that we can talk to, about what exactly is the appropriate signage. I know the other Mrs. Pedersini had a question about walking on the street and pedestrian, slow pedestrian, that kind of stuff. So Tim did order some of those signs. So that's kind of where we're at. I don't know if I answered your question completely.
Yes, and a follow-up to that. Do we have a speed limit sign that we can put up there for a speed limit around that section?
If not, we'll make one.
Perfect.
Okay, anybody else?
Sure.
Counselor Wilkinson.
Seems like the administration is doing whatever they can in order to address the problem, yet the neighborhood still wants to say, but we want it faster. We want it faster. They come to the council, we have no jurisdiction over this whatsoever, and say, we want it faster. Well, you can't go faster if there is no faster. Alternative is simple, close the road. Would that be a good alternative to the neighborhood? Close the road, that section. Now you have to go all the way around. The city's doing the best they can. Not as fast as you want it to be, but I'm sure you don't want the road just to be closed. I'm sorry. It's been beaten to death. The city's doing the best they can.
Thank you. Counselor Blackmer.
One, I know we have a lot of neighborhoods and GPS, as helpful as they are also the bane of public safety's existence because people end up on streets they don't belong on. And so I definitely think, I think there's one on East Main Street going up, no commercial vehicles or those kinds of signs. I think sounds like they would be helpful. Not that they follow them because they're GPS and they want to get there. I also want to thank the mayor for taking the time to meet with a group of 30 people and listen to the concerns. I also know that the administrative officer, Kathy Eade, has been on, there's a federal funds webinar every month. And I know that the administrative officer has been on that every single month because I see her name on the list when I'm on it, looking for opportunities for anything that might come our way. And so I do, beyond the immediate things we're doing, there's other options, and she's there seeing what's out there. So there's only X amount of dollars and X amount of projects, but we're doing what we can.
Thank you. Counselor Shade.
Yes, first I want to thank the mayor for providing the information. You actually provided an update at the last meeting in regards to meeting with the community members. I want to thank the community members for being vigilant and trying to resolve this issue. I understand your frustrations when it comes to the lack of funding. I think we have a lot of frustrations when it comes to lack of funding and getting access to funding to fix all kinds of things in the city right now. I definitely wanted to make sure you were on the agenda this evening so that you could be heard by the full council. I've been speaking to you. I know you've spoken to others. I know you've been meeting with the mayor and addressing those safety issues, I think, is where we can help. So addressing the signage and following up with that, I think, is a great thing. Thank you for that. When the funding is available and comes through, we will work with the mayor to make sure that it gets approved so that we can get to work on fixing that. Unfortunately, we don't have the process to speed up funding or speed up, getting the state to, or MEMA or FEMA or whatever other organization that we're getting grants from. We don't have the ability to speed that up, but we do have the ability to approve it when it is ready and it comes through to make sure that those roads and areas get fixed. We will definitely pay attention to the safety issues and making sure that signage is proper and correct and work with the mayor through that. So I just want to say thank you to everybody, community, to the mayor, to the administration for the work they're doing. Thank you all.
Okay, Counselor Shade, do you have a motion? Or before you do that, any other further discussion?
Was it communication?
Council?
File a communication.
There should be no motion.
Okay. All right, there is no motion on that.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, Counselor, let's have Counselor Fitch speak, and then I'll have you again, Counselor Shade.
Yeah, sure. There's a little bit of tension in the room, not a lot, but a little bit. And I just wanted to say, if anybody is upset, we can chat afterward and hopefully figure that out. And let's just all try to be positive when we're in this room together and respectful of each other.
Thank you. Counselor Shade?
Yes, I believe Mr. Desotti had another question.
Excuse me, you have to
Can
come
you
to the mic.
microphone?
Please, please step in the mic. Yep.
Just a point of clarification, I didn't come here to say speed up and I want you to do this faster. I came here to make you aware of a safety issue. And if there are alternatives, there's a possibility that maybe you could make a sidewalk on the right of way on the opposite side of the street. There are other alternatives. I'm not pounding my fist saying, you got to do this faster. I'm trying to make you aware of safety issues and that you would address it with eyes wide open and do the best you can for the safety of the whole community. It's not just the people that live in that neighborhood. Sometimes traffic is diverted and there are people that are unfamiliar with that road that are coming through there if State Street is closed off. So it's, again, it's not, we're impatient, but we're very impatient about, we have patient impatience about the safety issues.
Thank you.
Counselor Bona?
Yeah, one thing which I won't do tonight, but something that we could possibly set forward is a public service committee to just discuss, and again, Mayor, I understand it's not about telling them what they can do, but also just having us be a little bit more informed, so when some of these projects come to us that are asking for approval or grants or asking for certain funding, that we're just also kept up a little bit, because even though we cannot tell, the departments and the staff what to do, we do get questions a lot on it, so it's just good to be sort of definitely up to what we know City Hall is at, so that again, when the public's coming to us, we either one, know exactly where to send them or whereabouts these projects are standing or what we're waiting for, because it's not just this road project, there are some others. And, public service does not meet often, but this might be an opportunity just to get caught up on some of the projects we know that are going to be coming forward.
So if I may?
Yeah.
You didn't call on me yet, but, I have no problem with that. I have no problem with questions. I have no problem with meeting with people. But we sometimes can't get ahead of ourselves on some of these things. And not specifically, Walnut Street, but we're not ready to play our cards until we're certain we have a project. And we need to determine what that project is and how we're going to fund it. And that's what we do. And the update that I gave, was it last council meeting? It was a whole laundry list of things. So we have we're multiple projects that we're managing and trying to fund to help with some of these projects throughout the community. But I certainly entertain, I have no problem with that. But I also want you to understand that we're doing the best we can with what we have to work with. And we're looking for new tools in our toolbox every single day, as Councilor Blackmer, pointed out. So, happy to do that, but I'm also happy to field any questions. And I think, specifically you, Councilor Bona, you and I exchange, I have a question about this, and I try to be responsive. But there's a lot going on. We have a lot going on.
And I understand that through the chair that, the answers are right there, so I do.
I wish I had a crystal ball, and I wish I had a money tree out back.
Thank you.
Counselor Blackmer?
I just also want to clarify, I know people end up chatting after the meeting, but City Hall staff, they can't leave until we leave, so we really shouldn't be having little mini meetings here after the meeting to chat. I think people want to talk to people, they should set up some time either before the meeting, so it's not impacting City Hall staff, or in another space. I just want to be cognizant of that, because I know sometimes it's 45 minutes later and there's people still here, so just kind of keep that space in that place in mind.
Okay, any further comments? Okay, moving on. Council paper number 12,378, communication from Council Vice President Shade requesting time for the Higher Education Coalition to give a presentation supporting increased access to higher education funding through a resolution supporting legislative action. At this time, I'm going to file the communication without objection. Councilor Shade.
Yes, thank you. So I was approached by a group of wonderful people who are looking to speak to us in regards to supporting a resolution for Higher Ed for All. With that said, I'd like to allow them to come up to the microphone and speak to us, please.
Name and address for the record, please.
Jessica Stimson. I don't live in North Adams, but I'm from Enfield, Connecticut. But thank you so much, Vice President Shade and President Sapienza and council members. I appreciate you hearing from us today. We are the Higher Ed Coalition. I'm Jessica Stimson, and I have Neil Clark, Sid Rothstein, and Kelsey Romano here as well. And we're here today in support of Higher Ed for All and the Cherish Act to request that North Adams consider a resolution in support of Higher Ed for All, which is the backbone of the Cherish Act legislation. Higher Ed for All establishes a blueprint for a world-class system of public higher education that is urgently needed to meet widely shared goals in the Commonwealth. Higher Ed for All would enable people of all backgrounds in every community to build successful and fulfilling lives, address economic, social, and racial equity gaps, meet our state's climate change goals, create high-quality workplaces with fair wages and benefits to attract and retain faculty and staff, enable new discoveries and innovation, and invest in a competitive workforce that is the engine of the state's economy. The 4 pillars of the legislation behind Higher Education for All, which is the Cherish Act, involve recruiting and retaining high-quality faculty and staff, by ensuring eligibility for state health care and retirement benefits for adjunct faculty and part-time staff, something very close to me as I'm an adjunct in Massachusetts, and establishing a committee on wage equity and working conditions to recommend changes aimed at eliminating inequities based on gender, race, job category, and other conditions. Increasing student supports as well by investing $2,000 per high-need students in expanded student support services and expanding the Success Program that has been so successful in community colleges to all other public higher education. Also creating a program for debt-free public higher education, enabling students to graduate from public higher education debt-free, and creating a commission for green, healthy, and safe buildings across public colleges and universities relative to health, safety, and energy efficiency, and to bring all buildings into compliance by 2035. And I'm going to have Sid Rothstein come up to talk about how this specifically impacts North Adams.
I'm Sid Rothstein. I do live in North Adams at 93 North Street. I just want to begin by thanking you for hearing from us. It's an important issue. It's an important issue for the Commonwealth, and the Cherish Act is especially important for North Adams. And I want to tell you why. And I have 3 reasons why the Cherish Act is especially important to us as North Adams. And those are economic, moral, and political reasons. So first, economic. The Cherish Act will raise wages and salaries for higher ed workers, especially including everybody at MCLA, which for us is very important. That's going to increase the spending power for people in our town. It's going to stimulate small business. It's going to provide more capital for investing in housing stock and other places where we need investment. The Act will also finance building maintenance and repairs at MCLA, which is currently using a lot of their budget and pressing on students' debt and their costs. So again, the Act will channel more funding for our community by addressing issues of building maintenance and construction. The third piece, the third reason why there's economic reasons to support this act is that this will allow all the students at MCLA to graduate debt-free. As a result, we can expect to see more graduates stick around here in North Adams and invest their skills in our community rather than moving away to pay off their debts and face tremendous pressure. Second, there's more moral reasons to support the Cherish Act, and those are everybody deserves higher education, and nobody deserves to go into debt to pay for it. Furthermore, our educators and staff at MCLA deserve to be paid for the work that they do, and they're currently underpaid in comparison to their counterparts in neighboring states like Connecticut and New York. So we're losing talented staff to our neighbors. Lastly, there's political reasons to support the Cherish Act. And that is that this is a bill that's promoted by not just dozens of community groups like ours, but also by our state legislators, including, in this case, Paul Mark. And as a resident of North Adams, it's important to me that we have strong ties to our state reps so that they fight for us in the State House. And your vote to pass the resolution that we're proposing and have put before you will be a way to support Paul Mark and help him and others fight for us in Boston. North Adams doesn't have it easy. I don't think I need to tell you that. I think a lot of the discussion tonight underlines the fact that we face a lot of challenges here. And one of the things that I wanted to bring to the council today in support of the resolution for the Cherish Act is that this act will help us address some of the structural factors that we need to overcome in order to drive economic growth here. The Cherish Act will, for instance, increase the access and retention of motivated young people with skills, and it will increase resident spending power. It'll increase tax revenue, it'll stimulate small business, and it will attract more investment. So there are, moral reasons, political reasons for supporting the Cherish Act, but for me, the most important reason to support the Cherish Act is for its capacity to kickstart economic growth here in North Adams. So thank you very much. I'll pass it over to Kelsey.
Hi, Kelsey She, Her. I live in Lanesboro, but I am the board member for the MTA representing Berkshire County. This is my 14th year teaching special education at a high school. So I just wanted to offer you a perspective of what I'm seeing, because as a special education teacher, we are constantly having conversations about post-secondary, and they're depressing. It is heartbreaking to see how these conversations have shifted to be I want to study criminal justice, I want to be a lawyer, to I want to go wherever's cheap, or I don't know what I want to do anymore, because they aren't even given the opportunity to have dreams or imagine what their future could hold, because they are thinking about their debt. These are 14 and 15-year-olds who are well, my future is already over because I know that I've seen my parents be in $40,000 worth of debt, and I don't want that life, so I'm done. And that is a reality, especially for the students from marginalized groups. So there are a lot of reasons to support this, and there's a lot of great facts that I'm sure we will also share with you, but just from just the heart of this is helping kids and helping communities. So I just wanted to make sure that we center that, because it is really important, and it is the future of our community that I know we all care about extremely deeply.
Good evening. My name is Neil Clark. I'm the Senate District Coordinator for the Mass Teachers Association in Senator Mark's district. And to reiterate somewhat what Sid had just said, Senator Mark is a lead sponsor on this piece of legislation. And in the previous iteration, it's had the support of Representative Barrett as well. And this is not germane just to North Adams. This is an effort that's going on across the entire Commonwealth. It's important to get to bodies like yours that are influencers, well-respected, looked up to leaders, that people have the need to find out what they think about the issues and then probably follow their lead. So that's why we're coming to groups like this across the Commonwealth, asking you to take a look at the packet, and as Kelsey said, there's a lot of data there. On average, the graduating class of 2023 in MCLA, $33,000 in debt. The graduating class across the Commonwealth, $400 million in debt. So this is about the future. This is a legacy kind of piece for me. I'm a retired educator, and I look forward to my grandson having the opportunity to get a college degree without being in debt for the rest of his life. And I would imagine most people share that view. So we hope you'll take the time to look at all the statistics, which are really shocking kinds of statistics in that packet, and lend your support, lend your voices. When the time comes, get on social media. We need this passed. We're getting towards the end of the 2-year cycle for legislation, and so we really need to get this passed, and we'll need your support budget-wise when it comes up. The budget talks, as I'm sure you know, start in April, and Where's the money going to come from? Well, thanks to the Commonwealth and all the voters in the Commonwealth, the Fair Share Amendment being passed, believe it or not, with state revenues, as I understand from the paper, going down somewhat, the fair share is going up. So it's a resource that we've got that's incumbent upon us to use to try to provide a debt-free path for a brighter future for the entire Commonwealth. Thank you for your time, and I'm sure we'd relish answering any questions you have. Yes, sir. Oh,
Councilor Breen?
Through the chair. Could you tell me a little bit about debt-free students? What is the...
It's not cost-free, debt-free. Students, imagine having to work a 30-hour week to raise some of the money towards your college education. Balance that with when your classes are being offered. This Cherish legislation has within it, you couple Pell Grants for students who are eligible for that with Mass State Grant. There's money available for that, and you can seek that through the Fair Share Amendment as well. You'll have a certain number of hours you're expected to work, a certain amount of family contribution to make. So by the time you get to graduation, you'll be virtually debt-free.
Following up on...
I can clarify on that.
Sure.
So basically, the way the debt-free would work is students would use their existing scholarship and grants first, like their Pell Grants, not loans. There would be a scholarship to cover the remaining cost of attendance, tuition fees, living expenses, and students would be required to work 10 hours per week to contribute. So that's sort of how that would work. And with the existing scholarship and grants, 10 hours of working, and the Cherish Scholarship, it would be, they would be able to graduate debt-free. And there's the thought of a soft rollout to this. At the Ways and Means Budget Committee, we're requesting, the MTA is putting forth a request for this to start with community colleges in fiscal year 25, and then a rollout to the public universities in fiscal year 26. So it would be starting with the community colleges and then rolling out that way.
To follow up on it, I'm an MTA member. Between my wife and I, we have 82 years in education. One thing that I would like to see, and we have started it at the regional school, students work 2 days at the hospital and 3 days go to class because they have to make a living. What my suggestion would be is, I'm very familiar with the college here. We have empty buildings. We have only 900 students. When I worked there, it was 2,200 day students. What I would suggest is that students come in that can't afford it, pay the room and board, and then 2 days a week when they're not taking classes on Tuesday and Thursday or on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, go to the local schools and be role models and teach English and teach math. And at the end of the 4 years, they have no debt, absolutely no debt. And that would benefit us because in our situation, we don't get enough Chapter 70 money to have all these tutors. When 2 blocks down the street, you could have 1,000 of them. And that would be working together. It would really be beneficial for students in North Adams and students from all over, especially Massachusetts. I think that would do it, because the answer isn't always, how do we fund it? How do we put it together? Because it's working very, very well with the hospital. They're growing. This week they're opening up. They've been closed for 10 years. And at McCann's, we're supplying students that work there, and they'll be working in their operating room, be working on their floors. And the same thing with BCC. When I was at teaching, we did what was called the dual enrollment program. Students got credits free, and they were transferable, so that they could take the 3 credits or 4 credits, depending if it had a lab, and go to another college And at some times, they had 3 or 4 courses. You know and I know, 40 years ago it was $5,000. Now, like Williams College, I think is $82,000. So we really need to have the legislature say, we're all the same money. Give some pre-students tuition to work in the schools.
That's a wonderful idea. I'd love to connect with you more on that, so to sort of get more information from you on that, because I think that's
And
give them great experience
one other
too.
part is, we have community colleges in Massachusetts that have 80% adjunct professors. That means they're for hire. That's not a campus. That means you go out and hire them with no benefits, no tenure, nothing. It's horrible.
Yeah, so the Higher Ed for All, the Cherish Act would hope to fix that as well. That's one of the pillars, is trying to, we recognize the fact that adjuncts are, 80% of the population of teaching. I'm one of them. I teach at Westfield State. And trying to improve that by getting them better wages and getting them the support they need, the job security they need, and the benefits that are so imperative for us to survive.
Counselor Blackmore.
You've got a lot of numbers in here. How much debt, how much average debt, what's the cost? Yeah, I'm sorry, but that's, Gary, I'm an accountant. That's the first thing I want to know. How much is it going to cost, and how much do we have in the Fair Share Act? Because it's not just for education, it's also
it's
for
transportation as well.
So when you want to say this doesn't impact our municipalities, that's a little inaccurate.
Well, no, it does. It absolutely does, but it also impacts in a positive way as well. So the Fair Share obviously is
So there's more
for-
transportation money.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I completely agree. But again, the Fair Share is for all of those, and that's why part of this has that sort of soft rollout to build it up. I don't know that I have an exact figure as to how much exactly it costs. I don't think our numbers have an exact. But the idea is, I'm looking for something that says, I think it'd be impossible to have an exact figure just because we're just sort of.
I understand
moving
that.
forward.
What numbers are you talking?
So I think starting with the community colleges and beginning with that, we're talking about taking just what higher education would be already getting. So the idea here is that we're not trying to take away from the transportation budget, or their aspect of Fair Share. We're not trying to take away from the pre-K through 12, because obviously they also are supposed to be receiving their Fair Share money as well. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. This would be a long-term project, sort of to build this in. And the other thing about Higher Ed for All is it's not all through. Higher Ed for All is not just through the legislation. So obviously the resolution that we're seeking from you guys isn't to necessarily pass the Cherish Act as it currently lies. It's for recognizing that Higher Ed for All is important, and that the passage of the Cherish Act or passage of some budgetary aspects of it, and at the bargaining table for the unions and things like that, it's all connected essentially. So I don't know if that completely answers your question.
It doesn't answer at all. You didn't give me any numbers.
Yeah, I don't have any.
Okay, well, I would say if you want to sell this to people, they're going to want to know how much. So.
Fair, thank you.
Counselor Wilkinson.
No, thank you. I've lost interest.
Okay. Anybody else? Counselor Fitch.
Thank you for taking the time to come here and explain this to us, each of you. And Sid, you in particular, thank you for bringing it home and explaining the benefits to North Adams specifically. I agree with what you said there. And I'm very much in favor of helping move this bill forward, this act forward. Excuse me.
Counselor Morrow.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for sharing. And as somebody who has gone to college in North Adams and stayed after, I definitely think that it would be a good thing. And thank you, Sid, again for explaining all the other benefits to it as well. I think that would be good.
Okay, anybody else? Counselor Bona.
Yeah, so, I mean, I can see there's a couple sides here, and I think definitely for this to move forward, at least for some people, is there's pros and cons to it, and obviously the con is there is a cost involved, and where does that cost come from, and things like that. So, and is it worth it? And obviously some people they'll say absolutely it's worth it. But again, need to know exactly how it's being funded and where those funds come from. Are they moving from somewhere else? Are they adding? Is it more taxes? Is it more, something like that? So I think it was a little concerning when you said you didn't have those numbers, because you had very specific numbers on one side, and you have to expect that these numbers are going to be wanted on the other side also, because if this is something that ever does go to vote, those questions are going to come up, and people are going to want to know those numbers. So, thank you.
Councilor Shade.
Yes, thank you. Higher education is something that we all see as very important to the community. If this funding is taking a proportion of a tax that already exists and saying we want to allocate that towards that, I don't see a problem with supporting that. If this is saying we want to take money from somebody else's budget to support that, that's where people are going to have a problem if they don't see the numbers. And that's where the numbers and the dollar figures are extremely important. Where exactly is the source of the funding coming from, and how is it sustained? My question, my biggest question has always been from the beginning, is this sustainable? We wouldn't want this to be a pilot program that starts and then have the rug pulled under it because the funding was cut, and then you get a bunch of students stuck in a situation where they no longer have access to those funds. That would do more harm than good to the student population if that were to happen. So while I think it's a great idea of a program, it certainly needs more fleshing out and more details. I believe before it would gain the support it needs for a resolution. However, again, the idea of supporting higher ed for all is a great concept. It's something that, we want more of our population educated. We want more people educated. We need more educated people and educated workers. But at the same time, we also need to know more details before saying we're going to support a legislative act when we don't know the information or don't have the language or don't have the facts and figures of that.
Yes, you had something to add to that, please?
I do. I just want to respond to some of the concerns that have been raised, which I think are entirely valid. The numbers, we'll get them. That's a good question. Totally hear you. It's a question for the state legislature. It's less a question on our side. I think what we're asking of you is to think about the text of the resolution that we put before you, which is a statement of values. And I think we can agree for the most part that we share these values. Education is important, and it's an important economic driver for North Adams. Nonetheless, I totally hear your question. Numbers make sense. We like numbers too. I don't know why we don't have the big number, but I can guess some reasons. One of those reasons is that it's the Fair Share Act that is funding this. And the Fair Share Act, which is no longer an act now, it's a constitutional amendment, which is an additional taxation in Massachusetts through constitutional amendment, which I'll come back to in a second. What this means is what we're bringing before you today in the Cherish Act doesn't come out of any kind of existing tax revenue. That comes out of the fair share bucket. There are distributional concerns there that have been brought up in terms of transportation versus education. Fair, we can talk about those, but we're not talking in any way about raising new taxes. We're not talking about any kind of taxes being increased beyond what has currently existed after the constitutional amendment. I've said this phrase a couple of times, constitutional amendment. It's really important because the Fair Share Previously Act is an amendment. It's not subject to the legislative bickering. That means that this money is not going to go away. It's in the Constitution. It's as safe as these things can be. So if and when we move forward with the Cherish Act, it's not as though the source of funding is going to evaporate if we got a different set of legislators in the State House. It's going to take a lot more than that to affect the funding. So I just want to clarify those 2 points. We're talking about additionality here. We're not talking about a distributional conflict over existing revenue, and we're talking about a constitutional amendment, so it's a bit more protected than other sources of revenue. Nonetheless, the numbers, we'll get them. Thank you.
Councilor Blackmore.
I understand that. My thing is that what happens is you get a pot of money and it seems like it gets promised to everybody. Everybody has an idea on how they want to spend it. And so when you say that, when you say, I want community college, I know we've got the free community college over 25, and I think that's a great thing. So what's it going to cost to get from 18 to 25 for community college? That seems like something they should be able to attach a relatively stable number to, an idea that it's going to cost this much for the next 5 years. They should be able to figure that out. And then you want to extend that to 4-year college. Then, okay, so how much is that going to cost to do that? And I guess it's almost like, okay, is it going to cost you get the community college for 2 years? How much for the 2 more years is what a lot of the question is. And then the other thing is higher ed is important, but also so is Voc Tech. I mean, not everybody wants to go to college, not everybody's cut out to go to college, so I always keep that in the back of my head in that pre-K through 12 is really what the education system is now. And also what options are there available. And I don't have a problem with this. I just, when you're asking for things like that, and I understand, yeah, it's a value statement. We all agree with most of it. But again, I want numbers. And I'm also looking at organizations that I deal with that advocate on behalf of municipalities. I'm going to call them and say, hey, where are we on this? Because I'm on their executive committee. So but it's not. I've seen so many people have a pot of money and promise it. Oh, we have so much debt coming off our tax rolls. So they promise it to everybody, and next thing you know, they've promised way more money than debt came off. And that's my concern with the fair share tax, is that everybody's going to be promised a piece of it, and then nothing's really going to happen. So that's it.
Okay. Go ahead. Yes, please.
So we completely agree that obviously technical schools and Voc Tech is very important. Most Voc Tech is not public, it's private. So it wouldn't be included with this. However, STIC would be, so Springfield Technical Community College would be impacted, and they do have technical and vocational programs. And the hope is that other community colleges may also bring those forward, and do more promotion of technical as well.
Okay, anybody else? One thing I'd like to add is I was looking at the chart on, pages aren't numbered, but it's this chart right here. Everybody looks at it. I noticed it only mentions associate in arts degrees and Bachelor of Arts degrees. I would like to also see the numbers in Associate of Science degree and Bachelor of Science degrees, because I feel those degrees are important as well. And as Councilor Blackmer mentioned, the fact that we have a lot of students that are not college bound. They are tradespeople, and again, my thing is I try to make the importance is that trade school is as important as college to some students. We need our mechanics, we need our builders, we need our electricians, our plumbers, and what have you. And I would just like to see the numbers for those, and that's my 2 cents. Anybody else? Okay, moving on. All right, we have no licenses on the agenda tonight, and we're going to move into open forum. This is an opportunity for the public to speak to the council for 2 minutes on issues of municipal significance. And before I continue, I just want to thank you folks for presenting your program tonight. This is an opportunity for the public to speak to the council for 2 minutes on issues of municipal significance. As a reminder, I will tap the gavel when you have reached the 2-minute limit to signal that your time has ended. And as a courtesy, I also ask that all parties please refrain from any personal attacks. Would anybody like to speak? Okay. Mayor's updates. Mayor?
Just to be courteous of the time, want to remind everyone on Saturday from 11 to 1 at the North Adams Armory, we will be having our Easter fair, the Easter Bunny, and lots of kids' activities will be occurring. So if you'd like to join us, open to the public, free, there'll be a lot of activities going on at the Armory. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, committee reports and minutes. Counselor Bona.
Yeah, I just want to announce, the Finance Committee did meet since the last meeting. I don't know, we met once or twice. I know we were looking to set one more meeting, but obviously circumstances with my schedule got messy. So we're getting there. We're getting very close to presenting and putting together the package. There'll actually be 3 parts. I have Counselor Shade working on one order that will come forward, and thank you. Counselor Fitch. Thank you. That's what I wanted to say, Andrew. Counselor Fitch is working on another piece, and then there'll be the big package that follows. So it's coming.
Okay, anybody else? Liaison updates. Counselor concerns and correspondence. Counselor Blackmore.
Just want to remind everybody that we're going to have the public hearing, joint public hearing with the planning board on the 9th.
April 9th, I believe,
April
at 6
9th
p.m.
at 6 o'clock. So we can plan on that before our 7 o'clock meeting.
Okay, thank you.
That's the only thing I have.
Okay, anything else? Counselor Fitch.
Yes, the 10th Annual Live Out Loud Conference is taking place on Saturday, April 6th from 11 to 3 in Murdoch Hall at MCLA. This is for the LGBTQIA+ community, and anybody else is welcome as well. Something to check out.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. I guess at this time I make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.